Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's Son of a Gun Gourmet. In this video, I'm going to be making a focaccia style loaf. It's got all the flavor of the classic bread, but with a softer texture. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and let's start cooking. These are the ingredients I'll be working with today. To start, measure out half a cup of extra virgin olive oil and put it into a mixing bowl. Then mince 2 cloves of garlic. I like to use a rasp to mince the garlic because for this application you're going to want it to be very fine and even. If there are any large chunks, they might burn. Next, pick 1 sprig of rosemary and about 8 sprigs of thyme depending on the size. The fresh herbs are what really give this bread its flavor, so if you want to mix it up a bit, marjoram and oregano also work really well with this recipe. Once your herbs have been picked, finely chop them. Add your herbs to the bowl with the garlic and olive oil, then add about a half teaspoon of cracked black pepper. Mix these ingredients together and let them sit at room temperature to build flavor. The longer you let them sit, the more flavor the oil is going to extract from the other ingredients. So I like to set this up about an hour before everything else. Now to start on the dough. Add a cup of warm water to a clean mixing bowl and whisk in 2 1/4 teaspoons of dry active yeast. Once it's been thoroughly mixed, let it sit for about 15 minutes. Once the time is up, add 1 cup of flour, about half a tablespoon of honey, and half of your flavored oil. Incorporate all those ingredients into the yeast and let that mixture sit for another 15 minutes in a warm place. You should be able to see the dough start to rise and little bubbles form. If this doesn't happen, you might need to wait a little bit longer, and if you do and still nothing happens, then your yeast might be dead. Mix 1 tablespoon of kosher salt into the remaining 1.5 cups of flour. Then add it to the bowl with all the other ingredients. Mix everything together in the bowl with a wooden spoon until a shaggy dough starts to form. Then you could transfer it to a clean work surface and start kneading. Continue working it until it feels firm and the gluten is developed. It should take about 8 to 10 minutes. And if it starts sticking while you're trying to knead it, just put a little bit of flour on the table. The next step is to let it proof in a well-oiled bowl for an hour in a warm place. And don't forget to cover it with a warm damp cloth. Now transfer your dough into whatever you'll be baking it in. I'm using an 8x8 glass dish, but a metal loaf pan works just as well. But whatever it is, just make sure it's well oiled. Gently stretch the dough out to fit your dish and try not to rip it. Use your fingertips to knock down the dough and create dimples. And pour your remaining olive oil over the top, evenly distributing it. Cover your dough for another 20 to 30 minutes for the final proof. And while it's proofing, preheat your oven to 375. Pop it in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes or until it turns golden brown. Carefully remove the loaf from your baking pan and transfer it to a cooling rack. This bread can be a little tricky to get out of the pan, so whatever you're baking it in, just make sure it's well greased. And finally, after all that waiting and proofing, your patience is rewarded with this awesome, light and savory bread, perfect either on its own or as a side with dinner. I hope you give it a shot. If you like the flavor of focaccia and want it with a different texture, this recipe won't disappoint. Thank you all for watching and keep on cooking.